welcome to Reality Check, where we decode the drama, debunk the myths, and deep dive into mental health matters portrayed on the TV screen. My name is Selena, and I'm a licensed therapist.
Hi, my name is Jacqueline, and I am her best friend.
Welcome, welcome. And today we're going to be talking about episode 5 and 6 of The Bear. Do you want to
Yes,
start us off with a recap?
these next two episodes are very heavy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
In a good way, of course. So for season 1, episode 5, we get a glimpse of Sydney's past, and we get a glimpse of a lot of her flashbacks from being a catering chef. And how she, maneuvered her way through that and how that was hard on her. And then we also got a little bit insight of how Mikey kept the business going with Richard helping on the side of selling some illegal things. And that also escalated from FAK, F-A-K, is who they call him, and he was the one that ratted him out. And in that scene, he said, "Mommy knows now. There you go." Which
Talking about telling Carmy.
yes, which we'll dive deeper into. And then it also hits on Sugar doesn't like Richard. She cannot stand when he is around. She refuses to look at him, talk to him, acknowledge him, and we'll hopefully find out why. And how at the end of all that, Carmy gets mad at Richard for doing the selling. And then at the end of it all, he turns around and says, "Hey, I need you, actually," because a pipe busts. The toilet explodes in Carmy's face. And Fack is like, "I thought I had a hookup, but I don't have a hookup." And it becomes this big amount, and Carmy's like, "There's no way. There's no way." So we do need to discuss
the electric too, wasn't it? Didn't the
yes,
electric go off?
everything. Well, the electric went out because
that's right.
Marcus was making donuts, and the spinner went out. And if you watch that scene, the way I've noticed a lot with the scenes, you can feel it says there's always a heartbeat in the scene. So
that's such a good way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, the ticker of it going that was the heartbeat. You can feel the blow up. In the past we've talked about the lighting, that's the heartbeat. But yeah,
clock.
So what?
There's always a clock.
Yes.
And then when it dings, it's like chaos.
And they show the clock a lot because they have to beat of when they open. So all of this happened. And then going into a season 6 or episode 6, season 1, Richard goes on a date. They started off with him on a date, and that does not go well due to the story he was telling, because all the date heard was he was at a bar at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Which is a big eye-opener. And then they dive into how Richard doesn't like change, how he can't handle it, and the show really shows that he can't handle change, because there was a drama field going on outside in front of the store, and Sydney handled it. She went out and she was like, "Okay, let's all get to know each other first, and then I'm gonna give you free food." That's kind of how that went down. And honestly, I would love that if that happened to me. Give me free food. It would make everyone happy. This is in Chicago, and that's kind of how they handled their arguments, is here's free food, get away, go settle it over there, or anything to de-escalate the big drama.
Yeah, having like a turf war right outside, it's not good for business.
Yeah, then they get into a little bit of Mikey's past. When Carmy and Sugar were looking for the tax receipts and the pay stubs, and he pulled out a drawer, and in the drawer was a bottle of pills. And he just was like, huh. And that stopped whatever argument they were doing, and looked at each other and realized, we're in this together. It's not just me that's suffering. It's not just you that's suffering. It's both of us. And the reason why she needed to find that is because she signed her name on this and she owes taxes. So
Mm-hmm.
she believed in Mikey. She believed in him or or mom or dad or whoever owned it at the time. Her name, I don't know if her name got on it when Mikey took over, if her name has always been on it. That has not been disclosed yet, but her name's on it regardless. And he realized, yeah, you are in it. It's not just me. Even though you don't want to step foot in this building, you are in it. And then they find it, and it's that aha moment for both of them. And the folder said, "Oh shit." And it's that aha moment, like we're a family. And I think that was Mikey speaking to them, if we believe in that. Because it said, "Oh shit," and that toxicity and that, chaos. They found
Mm-hmm.
it in the blue folder.
Mm-hmm.
Then they dive in a little bit about how he attacks Tina. Richard attacks Tina.
Mm-hmm.
And Richard, episode 6 is all about Richard, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And how why are you on this bandwagon? Why are you doing this? Do you see they're ruining everything? And that's,
Mm-hmm.
not exact quote from the bear, but, through it all. And she's like, Richard, look at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's thriving. It's this, it's that. Go with it or figure something out. And he threatened to quit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
yeah, so let's dive back into episode 5. What for Sydney, now that we're starting to get to know her a little more, I don't think she has trauma. Everyone has trauma, but I don't think she has it like the rest of the crew because she has a dad she's living with. We heard that.
Yes, I think.
But there's different types of trauma. There's different types
Yeah,
of
I think it's not, maybe not necessarily trauma. I think there's something going on with her because that like opening scene, she opens the medicine cabinet and then there's like bottles and bottles and bottles of medicine, of like maybe old bottles. I don't know if it's necessarily hers. We don't know what she takes. There was like another episode where where with the Xanax, we could see that it was like a Xanax. But in this, it didn't show what her daily medication is. It could be anything. It could be something for her thyroid. Who knows? Like women have thyroid issues. But it also like, if she's working in a high stress, high anxiety, and her business has gone under, maybe she is suffering from like depression or anxiety. We don't know yet. I don't have enough information on her to be able to like say she has this.
yeah.
But yeah, I think there's talks about Sydney being impatient. Because Carmy was like, I called your references, and she was like, oh yeah. And they were like, yes, like you're very talented at what you do, you're very knowledgeable, but you're green, you're new to the kitchen, and you're impatient. And we see that struggle with the like braised beef and risotto that looked phenomenal, by the way.
It
My
did.
God, could I jump through the kitchen, the TV, and eat that, please? Thank you.
Yes.
That looked really good. But then it was like, she's like, it's good. You just called it tremendous, the sauce. And he was like, but I didn't say it was perfect. Right. And so she's like, I'm mad that like it's not. So we're seeing her impatience. But then we also see this like growth opportunity of hers where she goes and talks to like the turf war that's happening and solves the problem. When I
She's a
think that's,
fixer.
yeah, she is the fixer. I mean,
She's
she
a
came in with
fixer.
this whole portfolio of like how to make the restaurant better in the like first couple episodes, and now she's fixing the turf war that's happening.
Now, is she a fixer because she wants to be, or do you feel like Carmy pushed her in that due to the brigade?
Um, I think she opened herself up to that. Because she came in with all these ideas, and then Carmy was like, okay, then you do this if you want, because she asked for more responsibility, right? So she's like, I want to do more, and I want to get paid more. And so he was
Mm.
like, okay, I bet. Like, if you want to get paid more, then.
Smart. Thunder is licking the window. Knock it off, Thunder. We will edit that out.
Been interrupted by your dog, Thunder.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Doing doggy things.
Yes. Yes.
Um, yeah, so I think Sydney is like growing and learning, but I think to bring in another character that like butt heads with Richie. So I'd like to segue into Richie.
Yes.
Um, he keeps so in the sixth episode, um, begins with I think it was the sixth episode where it's like he notices the bar closes,
Yeah.
right? So
That
he's
was
like,
a heavy change.
right, change is coming, and then he learns that because of the turf war, the people are standing on his corner because there's construction in another part of the street. So the street's being gentrified. It's like being turning over. Um, and Richie is not handling this well. And so I think Richie's having a hard time figuring out where he stands in the kitchen now. Like, what is his role? He's kind of just like chaos. He doesn't really have a role. He's just like there fucking shit up. Um, and his baby mama's like calls him bad news, right? Because he's like, my daughter asks me if my last name is really bad news, because in her phone it's like bad news bears.
And
But
that right there was like an aha moment for Carmy.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know why Carmy doesn't take these moments when it's just him and
Richie.
Richard to have the talk, because we all know what the talk is coming. It's you are a fuck up. You are this. You are that.
But I think Carmy's too loyal because of the ties with Mikey. So I don't
Mm,
think that's coming. I think he's just allowing him to fuck up and like trying to get him on board. Right? And so then Richie and Tina have that conversation of like, this is good. This change is good. Like I am doing 300% better. Um, and Carmy's like, well, I'm just gonna quit then, right? Like again, kind of going back to like if it's not my way, then like no, I don't want any part of it. I'm not gonna share with you. Um, I think the delicate ecosystem is a projection about how he actually feels about himself. I think because Richie is a delicate ecosystem. He's a very fragile man.
that makes sense. I
Because
was
he's
wondering why he kept bringing that up. I was like,
Yeah, I think
you
because
gotta do the
it's a
same thing.
projection of how he feels about himself. Because
Mm,
he's delicate, because he's always flying off the handle. He's clearly threatened by Sydney and her ability to like, right, because he's running around looking for the gun. And then he finally finds it and comes around the corner and the problem is solved. No need
mhm,
for him. Why is he there? Right? He's not allowed to sell his drugs anymore in the alley.
mhm,
There's no need for his violent way of like trying to solve the problem. What was he gonna do with that gun? Like you're against like 12 mobsters. Like you gonna break that up? But like Sydney finds a non-violent way to fix the problem.
mhm.
And he's like, you can tell he's like taken aback. Or like, oh, where is my place?
Well, since we are on that, yeah, I think he finds out his place and he tries to establish his place when it comes to FAC. Um, and he told him he's HR. So FAC tries to get a job
Uh-huh.
and he's shutting him down because he wants to feel that power.
Mm-hmm.
He wants that. He wants that power of, well, you're not good enough, you're this, you're that. And everything he's saying to FAC, like if I was FAC, I'd be like, then fix it yourself and leave. He didn't. He did not do any of that. He stayed because FAC is loyal. There is
Mm-hmm.
a scene where he wanted, I love at the end of most episodes, they do a family meal. And he's like, can I get in on it? Can I get in on it? And they're like, you're not family.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even work here. Which
Mm-hmm.
really made me mad because he does all the fixings for you. So how does he not work there?
Zach is
Um,
like the little brother that like never
yeah.
gets included.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And as an older sibling, I don't know that. So, yeah, I was not a fan of the dynamic between Richard and Fack. Mainly because, yeah, they treated Fack like he wasn't anything, and he does a lot for that restaurant. Um,
Because and then he turns around and says, I'm HR, right? Because Fack is like, oh, well, I want to talk to make an HR complaint. He's like, I'm HR. And then this is where like the power dynamic comes in, where like Richie's trying to be like he's trying to find his way on top, right? He's trying to gain control over some situation, and he's taking Fack, who has like this like who's like the little brother, right? That's kind of the
Yeah.
role he takes, is like little brother who doesn't get to do anything, doesn't get to be a part of it, but like has to do like the grunt work,
Yes.
literally the dirty work, like cleaning out the toilet.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, yeah. And I don't know. It's just that whole entire scene I just didn't like. But
Mm-hmm.
Fact kind of won in the end when he was like, I told mommy Carmy, you know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
about what's going on. But then
Yeah.
once again, Richard got the upper hand when he had to ask him to deal and
Mm-hmm.
sell, and he was like, say it. And he had to say Mateo.
Mm-hmm.
And Richard just, in a weird way, he always wins.
Mm-hmm.
It's like his chaos is always somehow trumping what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it wins because they're still very much in the chaos, right? They needed like it was like $5,000 or something for this transformer that blew.
Mm-hmm.
Because while they were talking, they were like, nothing bad is going to happen, and then boom, power's out, right? Every time they do that, every time they're
Mm-hmm.
like, don't do this, it happens, or
Yeah.
like, it's not going to get worse, and then it does, right? It's like, it just keeps
Yeah.
happening.
And
And generally,
he wants to be the hero. And
yes.
I say that because when the bullets came through,
Mm-hmm.
he was like running out there like, hey, you go around the streets and find out and let me know, brother. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
was that like just fix the glass and move on, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was because they started selling drugs. I think it was like coke out of the back alley when Mikey was
Hmm.
running the restaurant um to survive COVID, right?
Yeah.
Like which that was probably really hard. And so I guess he was still doing it.
Hmm.
And
Which is where that Nico guy comes in play when they're like, who
yeah,
is this?
we're not really sure who Nico is. Because
Right,
Ricky's
that's
like
true.
Nico has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Uh yeah, just Richie really likes to feel like he has power.
Hmm.
And again, that projection of like he's the delicate ecosystem, so when he doesn't have power, he wants to quit. So like the next episode when like, Sydney is fixing the problem with the turf war,
Hmm.
he's like, I'm gonna quit. I don't belong, like meh, throwing a tantrum. And Tina's like, where are you gonna go, dude? Like
Yeah.
you've got nothing. Like this is
Yeah.
your family. Like figure your shit out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a pretty fragile character.
Yeah, I feel like Carmy is also as fragile, but in a different way.
I think
He
he's more
doesn't show
reserved.
it. Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he is putting on and I can't remember if he is the big brother or not, but he's putting on that big brother mentality of don't show them fear, don't show them scared, don't cry, don't this, and just push through, persevere.
Mm-hmm.
And through pushing through, it brings him and Sugar closer, which I want to dive in a little bit on her,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm getting the sense that her and Mikey and Carmy were all raised differently. I'm getting the sense that because she immediately was like, "Well, let's call the cops," and everyone's like, "No."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting the sense that
Because
she,
Peter.
well,
Mm-hmm.
either Peter or because she is from what I'm seeing from what we watched so far, she's the only girl, and as the only girl in
Right.
the family, you get a lot of
Get different
push,
attention.
yes,
Yes.
attention, and you get a lot of like help.
Yes, I say it's because of Peter, not because he's the one that's like, oh, you should call the cops, because he's showing her a more calm side, a more like, air quotes, civilized side of how to be, right? Like, I imagine they live in the suburbs, not in the city. Um, again, like how he dressed, what we were talking about the last episode of like how he was dressed.
Hmm.
Very like privileged life. He's showing her the calm side of life. And so she's like, what do like suburban people do when chaos happens? They call the cops, right? And so what do people from the city do? They handle it themselves, right? And so there's a clashing of dynamics where like Sugar is in the middle. She's like, this is where I come from, but I want to not be here anymore. I want to leave. And Sugar, I think, is very much like the caretaker.
I was gonna
Uh,
ask, yeah.
yes, I think she is the caretaker, because she's very concerned for Carmy. I think she's afraid that the same thing what happened to Mikey is going to happen to Carmy, which is why she's like, I want you to go to this AA, and so he is going to the AA. But one of the things that I liked about well, one of the things I noticed about Sugar was she was like, I had a brother who died too, right? She's feeling very left out in her grief, right? Of Carmy doesn't tell her how he feels. And the line that I really liked and I see so often is like, I can't even tell you what I'm feeling. Like, I don't know how to describe it. And so asking someone else how they feel feels crazy. So he's like living inside himself with all of these feelings, which is so common for someone who has like anxiety or PTSD. When he's waking up and his like apartment's on fire because he's cooking while he's sleeping. Um, I think that comes from like all this stuff that he's holding inside. He can't name it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's causing to come out in other ways. I see this so often in my practice and just like everyday life that like when people hold in their emotions and they don't express them in a healthy way, it comes out in ways that we least expect, whether it's like panic attacks or heartburns or headaches, or we're yelling at people, we're more irritable, right? Because we're not processing our emotions. And I think Carmy is coming into the realization that he has to start processing his emotions if he wants to have a more calm, less chaotic life.
Yeah, he definitely tells Sydney when they were talking about the food and she was like telling him all these things. He goes, Chef, I hear you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
processing it. It's not happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
Which, yes, that's her impatient, but I think the old Carmy would have been like, let's do it. Fine, do it. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it. You know what I mean? Right now, I'm listening, I'm
Mm-hmm.
processing, but we're going to see where it goes.
Yeah, he's trying to be more calm and less chaotic.
And he's enjoying how it's working. And he
Mm-hmm.
told her, he said, do you hear yelling? Do you hear this? Do you see this? Like, can we
Mm-hmm.
enjoy this? I want to hold on to this. Like, he
Mm-hmm.
realizes he needs that, because chaos is not always healthy.
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, I just found that interesting. And then with the whole sugar dynamic, I think I'll get to like her. It's not that I don't like her character. I just don't like how, oh God, chair moved. I just don't like how distant she is, and
Mm-hmm.
explain how everyone deals with grief, because I think that's what's
Mm-hmm.
going on.
Yeah. Yes, I think it's her own way of dealing grief. She said before she hates coming into the restaurant. I think it's interesting because everyone who goes into the like family dynamics, so Cicero, Carmy, and Sugar have all said like this restaurant reminds them of bad things. And so some people in their grief, they go like farther into it, and we tend to repeat cycles, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. But Sugar is more withdrawn. She doesn't want to be a part of it. She's forced to be a part of it now because they're going to take her house if she doesn't pay the taxes on this place. So she has to, as a means of like survival for her own safety. But she's avoiding it, right? She's trying to get Carmy to come out of the restaurant and like hang out with her and have conversations with her. But he got a fly there. Uh, for those of
Yeah.
us watching us on YouTube. But she wants him to like come out of the restaurant. I think she's afraid that he's going to be sucked in, and so she's very withdrawal. Um, to the point of um Sugars describes the restaurant as being inconsistent and chaotic, and Carmy says sounds like mom,
Yeah.
right? So there's lots of hint that mom is not a mentally well person. We don't really know what, but she's not in the picture. We haven't met her yet. Don't know if she's alive, don't know her status. We just know that like she is chaotic because too there was another, I don't know if it was a previous episode, but Carmy had asked Tina, was like, did Mikey make this for you? And she was like, yeah, one Christmas dinner. And he was like, how was mom? And mom was like, oh, she's chaotic, but the food was good. Right? So like we know that mom is chaos. So
And
again,
in that, I didn't mean to interrupt, I'm sorry, but
mhm,
in that scene, the
mhm,
camera zooms in on him and his spoon as he's talking to her about mom.
like
Like
he's
the heart,
trying to self-soothe.
yeah, his heartbeat was raising, so he's like, cool,
Mm-hmm.
and like walked away.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So again, the restaurant is very much a metaphor for the family. In therapy, there's a saying of we repeat what we don't repair. So he's very much trying to repair his family by repairing the restaurant, right? It's a metaphor, it's a projection of how he's feeling. We know that mom is chaos. We know that the kitchen is chaos. If he can get this one thing in order, then maybe other things will fall in line. It's this interesting fantasy of if I can get the kitchen in order, then I can get my family in order. I can fix it. So Carmy is like coming in to save the day, trying to come in and save the day. Um, so it's like repeating familiar patterns. He is in this chaotic restaurant, which has been described several times as his mother. So
Yeah,
very exciting.
that is, yeah, that's a different take on it. I did not see that. Like I said, I'm just so blown away that we see the restaurant as family because
Mm-hmm.
I did not see it, but it all makes sense with the heartbeat and the leading to explosions and everything that can go wrong goes wrong. So yeah, it's just I'm interested to see what the next episodes bring.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also interested to see how Sydney's character grows. And I'm rooting for Marcus to get that donut. Like I just want him to just get it because he
Mm-hmm.
talks a little bit about his past and about how like a childhood he wants to bring that what was it, a pink or green, purple fluffy donut.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, if I can just bring that back, like he'll be so happy, which is his childhood. And I think, like you see in therapy, a lot of adults, even though we grow up, there's a moment in our life where we start going backwards because the childhood, whether it be trauma or happiness or memories or whatever you want to call it, catches up to us and we want it to come back into our adult life at some point. And I think that's what he's doing is he's wanting that purple donut. And um, that's just I'm interested to see that. And I also when he was talking to this one guy, I cannot remember his name. He was one of the workers, but he kind of asked him if he was homeless.
Mm-hmm. And he was like, nope, just really committed to my donuts.
Yeah, which makes me wonder about his childhood.
We'll see.
Who's that dedicated to their childhood?
Mm. Well, I think it's nostalgic for him. Again, I think he's trying to find his place inside the restaurant and wants to prove himself. I think he
Yeah.
realizes that Carmy is very good at what he does and he wants to be able to hold his space within that system. And this is one way to do that. And also, like, be nostalgic while doing it. And also because he fucked up with the mixer and blowing the fuse
But Carmy handled that
very
very
well.
well.
Mm-hmm.
They both had an aha moment, and he was like, what did Carmy say? I wish I wrote it down. He said, you can either cry or you can party. What do you want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, party. But I think it was good that he had that moment of realization that he messed up, and he's like, because of me, we now owe all this money. And
Mm-hmm.
Carmy's like, well, what's new? Look
Mm-hmm.
at Sydney. She pulled it. She carried the team. We're outside. We're doing this. We're doing that. Like, get up and move on. That's life. That's what like you
Mm-hmm.
just have to move on.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, I just can't wait to see them all grow and tune in for our next episode.
Yes, and as always, just because I'm a therapist doesn't mean that I am your therapist. So if you are in need of therapy, make sure that you reach out to your resources. There's a plethora online. And as always, make sure that you subscribe to our channel and tell your friends about us.
This has been a reality check.
Bye!
Bye.